Hi, I'm Tom O'Brien. I am currently the EMEA product manager for Imbruvica in Janssen Oncology, so the pharmaceutical part of Johnson & Johnson. And I'd like to just talk you through my background, which actually is very healthcare and in particular pharmaceuticals focused before and obviously now that I'm in J&J. So I come from Ireland and I studied pharmacy originally in Cork in Ireland, where actually Janssen Pharmaceutical Company has quite a strong presence in the manufacturing side of the business. After I qualified as a pharmacist, I started my pharmaceutical career with Pfizer in Cork in a tableting plant for Lipitor, which is a cholesterol drug that at the time was the largest selling drug in the world. But I realized that I was more interested in the commercial side of the business, and I moved to the UK at that time to work as a medical sales representative with a French pharmaceutical company called Servier. And from there, I became a training officer with Servier, training the sales reps in the field. But then I got an opportunity to join a startup drug development company back in Cork in Ireland. The company was called Solvatrin Therapeutics. And I joined that company as a project manager. It was a company at very early stage with pre-human studies happening for various compounds. And from there I got promoted to Director of Business Development, where during that time I licensed in an iron preparation that is now available on the market. In 2013, keen to get an education behind my commercial interests, I went to London Business School and did my MBA there. So I was there from 2013 to 2015. Along the way, I did an exchange in Wharton, which is actually where the CEO of Johnson & Johnson, Alex Gorski, did his MBA. And while there, he actually came on campus and spoke about Johnson & Johnson, which was a nice opportunity to have while doing the MBA, to see him speak. So in May 2015, I moved to Belgium, which is actually the home of Janssen. It's where Janssen began, even though it's now obviously with many years part of the US company that is Johnson & Johnson. But I took up a role there as a new business development manager for Central and Eastern Europe and the emerging markets of EMEA. So the emerging markets of EMEA includes the Middle East and Africa. And in that role, what I was doing was looking for opportunities for the countries, so the operating companies in these countries, for drugs that would suit our portfolio that were either in late stage of development or already on the market and could be licensed in for those countries. The other side of that was looking at drugs that we, in some of these countries, were no longer promoting, and perhaps they would be better suited to some local companies to actually do some sales and marketing agreements where they would promote the drugs instead of Johnson & Johnson doing it. So it was a two-way side to that business development role, which was quite interesting. And after that, I joined my current role, which is a product manager for Europe, Middle East, and Africa for Imbruvica, which is set to be, all going well, the largest selling drug in Janssen EMEA, so in this region this year. Actually something that is hotly competed because there are 3 drugs in our portfolio that are all set to reach $1 billion in revenues this year in EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa alone, which shows you the strength of the portfolio that Janssen has at the moment, in particular in Johnson & Johnson, where clearly we are strongest in the US, but to have 3 $1 billion drugs in EMEA is really a strong indicator of the company at the moment. So that's what brought me to where I am today. And I'll just briefly mention a couple of my takeaways from the IRDP program and J&J in general, which I think is the most important thing to consider. Do you want to work in J&J first and foremost? And the IRDP is a useful ticket into J&J. What I liked about Johnson & Johnson's IRDP program is that it gives flexibility, actually. I believe it's less structured than some of the other pharma programs, which almost force you to spend very short amounts of time in very specific roles over a 3, sometimes 4-year period, and actually not enough time in those roles to really develop expertise that is worth something to a company in the role. The J&J IRDP, actually you come in a role that you have recruited into specifically to do that job. And of course, there is an encouragement to move into other roles, but you really do that as a member of the company and not just an MBA graduate as such. So it really gives you the flexibility to, from the beginning, find a role that is most suitable to you based on your background. And I think that's a really strong plus of this program, because it means from day one you're seen as an equal J&J employee, not as someone who has to go through a program before they get to that stage. For me, it was a big reason why I joined the company, because the business development role, the diversity that entailed, really attracted me. It meant from day one I was speaking with managing directors in the countries across the region. When we would be at the stage of closing a deal, I was speaking with the head of Janssen EMEA, so the chairperson for Janssen EMEA, before we closed those deals. So the access you get from the beginning in such a role, is unprecedented. In general, why J&J? Well, for me, it is that fact that you can have access to leadership at all levels. It's a huge company, but with a structure that people are open to speak with you, and you actually do get in the position to speak with leaders in your region or even globally at quite an early stage. So in the 3 years now that I'm with the company, I have been lucky enough to meet with Alex Gorski, the J&J CEO, and I've met the current chairperson of EMEA and had a meeting with the previous chairperson of EMEA for Janssen, which gives you an indication of those kind of opportunities. In addition, I think for such a big pharma company, there's quite a healthcare company, there's quite an innovative culture, and that means if you are keen on changing things, you can't change all of J&J overnight, but you can change things within your role and within your area, which is quite impressive. There's a big push right now in J&J to move to be more of a digital company, and I think that also has opportunities to come in and change and make those changes that maybe sometimes people in more senior levels are not yet at the level of understanding of the digital world to do it themselves, which I think brings opportunities for MBA. And finally, the last point I would want to say is, speaking from a Janssen perspective in particular, we're seeing really strong growth in the EMEA region. So it's a company you want to be in, and the pipeline that we have, in particular in the big disease area that companies are focused on at the moment of oncology and hematology, it really is second to none, and that is a big reason to consider working in Janssen, a huge company that is actually still growing at a fast rate.